Welcome to a pre-cal lesson on graphing sine, cosine functions. You've been waiting for them, I know. So, highly anticipated, I know. Even when I'm not here, I'm sort of with you. This lesson can be a little bit long, and this video will be 2 parts, okay? So make sure you watch both. And let's read over the aim together. Have you received this packet with the whole week's worth of lesson? I hope so. 4.5 aim, how do you graph sine and cosine graphs with transformation? We're going to talk about amplitude, period, and cycle. First, read over this note, please. Set everything to radian mode when graphing trig functions, except when specifically stated. All angles are always measured in radians, radians. Equations are solved using radians, etc. Goodbye, degrees, all right? So you guys make sure, as we start graphing, everything's in radian. Let's find the first page, part 1, amplitude, period, cycle, all right? So amplitude, period, cycle, all right? You remember, you guys, you do remember what periodic cycles are, right? That means every period, a cycle repeats, okay? All right, so you guys, we're going to go through the first one, and I know that a lot of you guys are like, oh, I kind of know how this graph looks like or how to graph, but I hope not, so I can demystify it for you. So first, A equals Y equals sine X, right? What does that really mean? A equals sine X, right? We kind of saw this graph before. We've seen it because I've shown you before, right? Even when we're talking about even and odd functions, also with the whole project, all right? So you guys, first thing, let's just pretend we don't know how to really graph these at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in values. For example, X and Y. X is no different than a 0, so let's plug in 0 for 0. What's sine of 0? It's 0. Next point, let's go in a circle. Let's go in a circle, you know, a whole period, which ended in 2 pi, right? But let's go in terms of every pi over 2. So what's sine of pi over 2? It's 1. Sine of pi is 0. Sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. Sine of 2 pi is 0. You've mastered these already, all right? And you guys, let's plot these. Isn't this really 0, 0? This is, oh, we're going to label these two. Pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Like disregard these little values that are written there, okay? And you guys, if you need graph paper for any of your homework assignments, go by the window where the cactus are and cacti are, and you'll see graph paper there for you, specifically for sine, cosine, and tangent graphs even, all right? Pi over 2. So you guys, pi over 2 at x equals pi over 2, it's going to be a 1. So you go up 1. At pi, it's 0. At 3 pi over 2, it's negative 1. And 2 pi is back to 0. Oh, it came back. You mean it went from here back to 0. It went back to the lowest point, and then it went back to the mid. So you guys, you're right. This guy is called what? He's called the mid. Right? And what is this guy called? It's mid. And you guys, did it exceed this? I mean, this pattern is going to keep on repeating over and over again, okay? I mean, we're going to graph all of it later, but you guys, it's going to keep repeating, okay? It's going to go 0, max, 0, min, and so forth, okay? Or we call it mid or 0, okay? 0 or mid, that's what we're going to call it. And 1 is going to be your max, mid-max. And what is this guy? 0 again, that's our mid, or 0. Negative 1 is our min, right? Isn't that the lowest this guy went, right? And this guy is going to be your, right? It's going to go back to 0, so it's going to be your mid. So your sine graphs are always going to have this pattern. Mid, max, mid, min, mid, okay? All right. Also, a couple of things I want to state before we do this. I'm not gonna explicitly say this anymore, but you guys, these are called 5 critical points. You see this mid, max, mid, mid, max. Mid, it's going to be our 5 critical points. These are our 5 critical points, okay? Critical points, all right? And you're going to have to label the coordinates like this. 0, 0. This guy is pi over 2, 1. This guy is pi, 0. This guy is 3 pi over 2, negative 1. This guy is 2 pi, 0. You have to label that every time for me on every test and so forth, all right? And you guys, this completes one period. So we can conclude something like this. Period, okay, of sine is 2 pi, okay? This right here, this pattern here, repeats once in 2 pi, okay? So the period of a sine is 2 pi, all right? And think about it, you guys. These points also occur on a circle. You know, right? Look at the sine and sine in a circle. These kind of, you've actually seen it this way. All right, let's go to cosine now. We're going to do cosine the same way, okay? Let's do by plugging in values. What's cosine of 0? Go ahead and do that for me. Cosine of pi over 2. What's cosine of pi? What's cosine of 3 pi over 2? What's cosine of 2 pi? Okay, go ahead and do that for me. Okay, you got it. Cosine of 0 is 1. Cosine of pi over 2 is 0. Cosine of pi is negative 1. Cosine of 3 pi, it's like 20 and 5 again, right? Cosine of 3 pi over 2 is 0. Cosine of 2 pi is going to be your 1. So you guys, let's look at this. Cosine of 0 is 1. And label, you guys. Pi over 2, pi here. 3 pi over 2, and this is 2 pi. Pi over 2 is going to be 0. Pi is going to be negative 1. 3 pi over 2 is 0, and we got this. So you guys, it looks like it starts at the highest point, it goes back to 0, it goes to low, and it goes back to max. And this guy right here, that completes one cycle in one period. So period of a cosine is also 2 pi. Period of cosine is also 2 pi. One period is 2 pi long. That's the distance. That's the length, right? So you guys, I'm going to label this also. Isn't this your max? You're right. Cosine starts at your max, and it goes back to the mid, which is your 0. This goes to the min, and it goes back to mid, the 0, and then it goes back to your max, and that max to max. Just like sine, it goes from mid to mid. That's one cycle. And of course, this pattern repeats over and over again. Okay, it'll repeat over and over again. You don't have to try to guess what's going to happen. Okay, and period of cosine is 2 pi, both sine and cosine. Okay, as you've seen it on the unit circle that we've been dealing with. So you guys, let's summarize. Period, you're right. Period is your length of one cycle. One cycle from max to max or mid to mid, it's going to be length of your one cycle, that's a period. It's basically your horizontal distance. Okay? Amplitude is distance. It's a distance. It's actually your height. It's your height from the midline. Now, the midline could change if there was a vertical shift, okay? Midline and max min. That means, you guys, isn't this our midline? How high is it from here to our max? That's 1. How about from our midline to our min? That's 1, and that's the amplitude. It's the height between your mid-max, okay? Mid to max, mid to min, that's the height. And a cycle is, okay, number of complete periods. Number of complete periods. And we'll discuss more with a cycle later, okay? But on a side note, you guys, I don't think, we won't need this as much because you can just calculate these. But you guys, let's write midline. Let's write midline. Midline could change, I told you, because right now our midline is y equals 0, a horizontal line, right? But what if it was at y equals 1? That's our midline because we had a vertical shift up 1. You'll see what I mean by that. Midline, we're going to write the equation for it really quickly. Max plus min over 2. Isn't that really? Or we could write it as y equals, because it's a horizontal line, max plus min over 2. But really, this is no short of an average, right? But we're trying to find the average between the max and the min, and we get the halfway point. All right, part 2. Let's move on to part 2, okay? It's really fun to graph these. It just takes a lot of time and a little patience, all right? Let's go to part 2. Are we at part 2, you guys? General form and transformations. I'm going to show you multiple STD forms that are, shown in other textbooks other than yours. Your textbook for general form, it's f of x d plus a sine b times x minus c, or we could write it this way. F of x equals d plus a sine b, parentheses x minus c over b. What's this guy? They're all related. It's just we factor the b out. I like this method, this right here. I like this particularly because it shows you the shape, a phase shift. Because you guys, as you remember from all of your transformations, the D is outside of everything here, right? That means it's a vertical shift up or down. And the A tells you how, it's the amplitude. So we're going to talk about that too. And this guy will tell you left or right shifts. Left or right shifts, okay? And this is another way that it's written that you recognize with the H and K, right? That's where the phase shifts happen, okay? Left to right, and then your up and down, okay? But your book uses this right here. G of x equals d. Cosine and sine very similar. A cosine parentheses bx minus c. And g of x equals d plus a cosine b, x minus c over b inside the parentheses, all right? Okay. And then, of course, another way. So A, I like to always, before you start graphing, know these, okay? This is a peanut butter and your CD, okay? A peanut butter, A, you're right, it's amplitude, okay? No guesses. P is your period, so period, okay? And that's going to be 2 pi over B. Because your period is, this is your period of sine and cosine, and you divide it by B, and we'll discuss more of that later. B is sort of your frequency. I'll show you what that is when we start graphing. Frequency of the number of times, oh sorry, that of is repeated, number of times completed cycles. Completed cycles of your period, a sine or cosine in 2 pi. That should tell you, like the B will tell you the number of times that you'll see the complete cycles, okay? C is your phase shift. We're going to call it PS, phase shift. Okay, these notations we're going to have to use for the rest of the time that we graph. And D is going to be your, phase shift or your horizontal shift, right? Okay, and D is your, so I'm going to also write another thing here, you guys. This is good enough, actually. D is going to be your VS, which is your vertical shift. Okay, vertical shift. And Y equals D is your midline, okay? Which was, remember, max plus min over 2, okay? Make sure you understand those, all right? So, for example, what I meant by this, let me just kind of demonstrate this, what I was trying to say. You guys, what if within 2 pi, like this is 2 pi, but how many cycles were completed of sine? 1, right? And there's another one here. This sine 2 pi, this is sine 2 pi. See, this tells me, this B tells me that there were 2 completed cycles in a period of 2 pi for this guy. Okay, that means it existed twice. A complete cycle experienced it twice in 2 pi. That's what that B stands for. All right, so we'll do some examples now. Okay, so make sure you get on this page now. This is page 4.